Yo!
Wow.
Oklahoma made some news today. That was a heck of an intro by yours truly. I'm really hyped right now. I don't know why.
I'm not.
She is not. I've had the last 2 days off of work. It's been fantastic.
I have not.
She has not. So that probably has a lot to do with it. 99% of
Probably.
it. There was also some news today
A little bit.
that broke for the Oklahoma Sooners. They are hiring one Jim Nagy as their general manager. Before we get into that, I am Chad Smith,
I'm Tierani Smith.
my wife, and we are the voice of college football, the Oklahoma channel. We stream on Mondays at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And, check us out on Monday. Subscribe to our channel. Like the video when you see it. And let's get into it. Anything else on that I'm missing on that end? We're pretty
No,
good?
we don't normally. We haven't really. This is our first ever, midweek
Update.
update.
Yeah.
It was a surprise video, so hopefully more of them to come in the future. But today was the first one
Yep.
because
Yep.
big news. We couldn't wait till Monday.
We couldn't. And that news being, again, like I said, Jim Nagy has been hired as the general manager. I think there's some thoughts here that we have that, and again, I've tried not to listen to other shows or other reporting
I haven't had time
done.
today.
You literally haven't had time. I just didn't want any of my thoughts to be, not clouded or anything, but influenced by what they had said. I'm just kind of give our general thoughts on what we think is going to be the result of the hiring. Jim Nagy hired again by OU as general manager. I'm sure as many people know his CV by now, but was the Senior Bowl manager of the Senior Bowl game since 2018, and recently interviewed for the New York Jets position as their general manager. They ultimately hired Daryl Morey for that spot, and before then had been director or a scout for nearly 2 decades with the Seattle Seahawks, Kansas City Chiefs, New England Patriots, and the Washington Commanders. So a lot of experience,
Right.
and a lot of work done in the talent evaluation space.
Right.
What are your first thoughts, and then I'll take it after that. But what are your general thoughts on the hire? What do you think it's gonna do for Oklahoma?
Right. So OU did have a general manager in Curtis Lofton, and
Yep.
which I thought was great to have because in the ever-changing world of NIL, it was clear that's something that's going to be needed for contracts, negotiations, talent, not acquisition, but I guess analyzing, things of that nature. And, I'm glad they had that, but I like that I hate saying the word upgraded because it's not a diss on Curtis Lofton, but somebody who has experience doing these types of things.
Right.
Versus Curtis Lofton was more into like the soul mission, and he even left for ministry. So he was he had a different calling.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
So he had a different calling to work on like the spiritual side and like that type, where this is more like, strictly business. You know what I mean?
True.
So I feel like they kind of sometimes can conflict each other. So I'm really excited about that. And for me, one thing I thought about, which I just wondered whenever Curtis Lofton had left or stepped down, like who was still doing the player negotiations then? Because I was like, man, if the coaches are doing those, to me that's kind of awkward.
Very, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's like
right.
not your role as a coach to negotiate your players' pay. To me, I could be totally wrong, but I just don't see like Brent Venables and Bill Beatenbaugh and Miguel Chavis in there negotiating. You know what I mean? Like I think it needs to be. Hopefully, it was delegated to somebody else. But I like now that we have that said person be able to do that. So I was really excited about that aspect. I think that would be good. What about you?
No, I mean, same. It's just, I guess, along those lines. I think it does a few things. One is it frees Brent Venables up to really run the defense and coach the defensive side of the ball without having to worry, just like you said, about the NIL aspect as much, player negotiations, contract negotiations, and then how, again, if the House settlement comes through, how OU is going to navigate that will be handled by a guy and by a team of guys, really, with the additions they've also made with Stevenson as well, that have a lot of experience in handling contracts with big organizations, with a lot of different personnel, a lot of different personnel types, and understanding how to navigate those waters, I guess,
Right.
With all the people there. So for me, it frees up Brent Venables to kind of really take on the defensive coordinator role, even though it's something he's familiar with, but just takes a added pressure off of him a little bit in that NIL arena.
And to go along with that, I feel like too for coaches, like if you're negotiating something sometimes as cutthroat as business, your heart gets into it because you feel for a player, their situation or whatever. When I feel like if you have a GM, maybe doesn't get clouded by those types of biases. Maybe
Yeah.
not to say that's the case, but I think that also helps, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Well, and think about if you're a player now, because I think if I've read the tea leaves correctly, just on again reading some quote tweets on Twitter and kind of just some breaking news on it. It seems like he's going to be in charge of a lot of the player salaries and a lot of just player negotiations and when it comes to NIL. And for Brent Venables, for the players, it's not going to be a personal thing with BV if they don't get the contract they're wanting or maybe get less than what they think. I put two and two together for me. I'd always been impressed by Nagy listening to his interviews for the Senior Bowl, especially whenever like Dylan Gabriel was going through the process, and then when Baker was and well, I guess after Baker, but whenever like Jalen and that whole crew was. He's very well spoken, really knows the game. And one thing you mentioned about the portal, which I think is going to be a real talent that he has, is his Senior Bowl. They have to make sure that they bring the right prospects there because it is the premier showcase of college talent for scouts. And he goes, the portal made it difficult in a few ways, right? One is obviously there's the transferring and all that, but he goes, just keep knowing where the players are, like knowing, hey, I found a talented kid at this smaller school. I want to make sure I keep an eye on him and. 4 months later, he's gone to another school. Next year, he'll be gone to another school.
Right.
He goes, you got to develop an ability to just maintain and track where these players are. So him being able to do that and knowing where, look, we're getting consistent talent out of this smaller school here, Oklahoma, let's put some resources in there and recruit those kind of areas, recruit those smaller schools. That kind of knowledge and experience, I think, is invaluable. And the reason why he's going to make real money as the GM, I think you had told me 7 figures in terms of close to at least. So real money.
Like you said, quote tweets.
Yeah. Real money in terms of becoming Oklahoma's GM, warranted in my opinion, very much so. It reminds me of when Miami hired Alonzo Highsmith as their GM a few years ago. That didn't work out as well as they had hoped. Hopefully, I think it will work out a little better in that respect. But Oklahoma, I think it's showing a lot of just belief in what the future holds that he would come to Oklahoma when he has a good gig. He's very respected in the recruiting and scouting worlds. At the next level, to say that Oklahoma is still a premier name in college sports, still something that should be respected. For him to come to Oklahoma and take that the risk that and maybe BV's success next year won't really impact what he's doing or the new leadership, but I think that it just shows a confidence in Oklahoma, and then it also shows that there's still this belief and maybe a little credit to Joe C for saying we're going to bring in a guy that will have even more input in what the football team's doing. And I think if we're looking at Joe C, there's been obviously a lot of criticism of him the last few weeks. I think a little bit of credit to him to say, look, I'm stepping back a little bit, not going to have, well, at least I don't think you literally could have as much impact because of the different positions we have now. You have the general manager position, you have the operations managers, the Stevensons that's coming in of the world that are going to be doing different managerial roles on the team as well. And now you have a guy that's going to be looking at player contracts, NIL contracts for them, and just running the position in a way that is going to be really beneficial for the team as a whole. And I think it just really separates the load and lets people focus in areas where they have specialties. Right.
And one thing that I noticed, I did read an article briefly, like when the news broke. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, I just want to see. And the moment I saw like some of the things he'd be in charge of, one of them was contract negotiations or player negotiation, whatever the exact wording was, but it made me think of the time we lost an offensive lineman a year or so ago.
Kingery.
I didn't want to drop names.
We don't want to say names, but I think it's probably
But
Kingery.
that was allegedly due to contract conflict or misinterpretations or whatever it might be, allegedly. No, there's obviously the tampering rumors too, but that being the reason, the rationale behind why they left. So I was like, wow, like I love that that's a focal point, because now that can't just be dropped. Like that's why you left, because of contract or not meeting your contract or whatever it is. You would hope, you know, you would hope that would just like set that in stone. So you have somebody on the business side that's not going to say, that wasn't in, yes, it was in your contract, or that's not what we agreed on, really, because here's what you signed, things like that.
Exactly.
So, which I hate that's in college football, but whatever. Because I guess at the end of the day, we all had letters of intent at one point. But that's just one thing that had popped in my head that I was like, okay, good. Like, it's organized is a good way to put it. And I had heard through the grapevine sometimes with some of the players, it wasn't organized. Or that one kid that had like the verbal contract at, was it UNLV?
UNLV, yeah.
Yeah, UNLV was the verbal contract. I never got anything in writing, so there was that conflict. So, I like the organization. I'm a type A organized person, so it can only help in this world. So that's very exciting. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Drop that off.
No, so those are kind of just our first thoughts on all of this. Obviously, it's developing. I don't know if anyone really knows for sure. The GM position is relatively new in college football, so exactly what he will do, I think, won't be known until maybe a year or so down the road. But I really think that he is going to provide a level of, like you were saying, organization and belief from both the staff and the players, that we have a guy coming in that knows NFL talent, understands how to scout and see talent where maybe others miss it somewhat.
Right. And I think that'll
really
help
get the
with
diamonds in the rough.
which you kind of had, yes, which is you had kind of had mentioned it, that like with the age of the portal, I know OU fans have sometimes complained about our portal hits or how they haven't panned out or whatever. Not to say all of them haven't, but I feel like this is just an extra level that we would be taking ourselves to be like,
That's a good point,
hey,
yeah.
like how to fight, like talent. And like how things can pan out sometimes. And so like having that extra person to like have an eye on it that can help you make the right choices out of the portal. You hope, again, like you hope everybody's going to pan out, but in the end it is sports and people are competing for jobs. So not every single one is going to go for 1,000 yards and, have 80 I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, very true.
So I do like that, and you had mentioned that. I just didn't kind of elevate on that he was familiar with the portal and had an eye on lots of different talent and following it and things of that nature. Because if you're our coaches, you're worried about your own team,
Exactly.
let alone trying to watch every single college. I mean, beyond just you just can't. Beyond like the Power 5, you have the smaller D1s. You even have some D2, JUCO. There's so much talent out there. So it's just another layer that you're giving yourself, another area of expertise to follow that for you, and that you would trust, because obviously he has experience in picking the cream of the crop, so to say. So I think that was also something that was just very beneficial if you're Oklahoma.
And my last point, at least, and I don't know if you'll have another one, but going back to the point we made about the belief in Oklahoma, we had said a lot of times on our show, at 7 o'clock Central Mondays, streamed on YouTube and other places. But we had said in our show that, I have always believed last year is an aberration year for Oklahoma. I think there are a lot of reasons why that season went the way it did, outside of even things that are in BV's control. I think that if there was a person that had the caliber and in the career prospects that a Jim Nagy does, there's a reason why the New York Jets would interview him for general manager position. They don't just let anybody interview for that. There's a reason why you are.
Interview?
Well, I'd have to make some calls. I have to make some calls. I think I'd be a fantastic GM, by the way.
You're power hungry.
I'd be a fantastic GM. The problem is, well, never mind. But I won't get into stories. But so I think that someone that has that belief in Oklahoma, that there's a reason. When you're a scout in the NFL for 2 decades, it shows that you can evaluate talent, and that also you're not. And I'll never forget listening to there's a podcast with former scouts on there, and one of the things that's hard about being a scout in the league is just the confidence to say we need this guy over this guy. You need decision makers that are in those positions, and again, that some of that comes with experience and confidence that you've made good decisions in the past. But to show him, it shows that he can evaluate, and he's not afraid to make decisions and afraid to have to make his point of view known, and his and to go his own way on certain things. So it shows the belief in the program. We had mentioned that the last couple years saved the year that we had a fully healthy team, and we had a year that actually had been developed from the previous season. We you go 10 wins. I think people know that the university is going to be okay, that they're going to continue to be an elite blue blood team in university, and I think that someone like of that caliber coming here and saying, look, I believe in this program. His statement obviously said a lot of great things. Those are kind of give and take. They're boilerplate things that are read by, PR stuff. So, but they're nice things said. And for me, it's just exciting. It's an affirmation and another statement, I think, to show the trust in the program and what all we have going on at Oklahoma.
Right. No, for sure. Because nobody, again, like you mentioned, of that caliber is going to come into Oklahoma if it's truly just a dumpster fire.
Right.
Or if they truly believe there is no future here. So, no, 100%. I think that it should show, what's the word I'm looking for? It should show confidence, belief from like as a fan base that somebody like him would want to join our university and the program.
For sure.
So take that for what you will.
Take that for what you will. And hey, we hope you guys enjoyed this little quick hit of a video. It's a cool little name, Quick Hits.
Quick hits.
Yeah, it could be suggestive of other. But we hope you enjoy it, and we try to do a couple more of these. We get busy at work sometimes, and it's hard for us to kind of make these videos, but we do enjoy it. So, behalf of myself and T, we hope to see y'all on Monday. Any last words at all, or?
No, we
We
just
good?
hope to see you Monday. Like the video once you see it.
There we go.
Throw a comment about what you think about the hire.
Yep.
Subscribe to our channel if you have not already. But
Yep.
other than that, we'll hope to see you soon.
All right, Boomer.
Boomer.